Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to my Walking Dead Season 9, Episode 8 review, and this is the mid-season finale for The Walking Dead, obviously. This was the mid-season finale, and it's coming back, this Sunday. But I do gotta say, though, when we do have, a finale of sorts with any show, even like a mid-season finale, it typically is really exciting because you know something big's gonna happen during the mid-season finale, and typically with Walking Dead, it means you get a death. But maybe we won't get a death. You really never know. I don't know if they're gonna kill anybody off because we've lost a lot of characters this season so far. So I think they're gonna not kill anybody off and just do something big. Because I do expect some big things to happen in this episode. But yeah. Let's just get right into it. How this review will be structured is I'll watch the episode itself, then review it, and then watch Talking Dead, review that, and then just end the video. I'm doing like an intro this time because what I'm also going to do is at the end of the review, I will say like what I have thought of this first half of this season. I will say that too. I'm just obviously going to wait till I see this episode because because it's still part of the first half. But we had I'm sorry, I'm getting flustered. The name of this episode is Evolution, which I think is a very fitting name because I think this is going to tie into why the Walkers in episode 6 of this season were whispering and stuff. So I think that would be a nice tie-in. I'm surprised too. This episode's actually, it says here, only 44 minutes, because typically like the mid-season finale is usually longer, but I kind of like that it's shorter. Because I feel like what Walking Dead's kind of starting to get better this season is not to make the episodes so long because they've all kind of been that way. Not all of them, but obviously the past few seasons they would have episodes that would be like an hour when they didn't need to be an hour, but I kind of like how this season, I think there's only been one episode that's actually an hour, and that was episode 6. And I even thought that was too long. But this episode actually came out on November 25th, 2018, which is kind of funny because typically Walking Dead doesn't end until like about the second week of December, I believe. So this is kind of early for The Walking Dead to end, so I think it's kind of funny that, it ended here. But typically that is kind of how it works, where it typically goes off TV a couple weeks after Thanksgiving and just before Christmas because AMC likes to play all the Christmas movies on there, so they probably, feel like Walking Dead needs to go away. And like I said, I like that it goes away for a couple months because it gives fans a chance to refresh and stuff like that. And also, too, NFL season gets well in the way in January and the beginning of February-ish, so they know probably they wouldn't have people intrigued to watch it. So as much as I've like crapped on Walking Dead sometimes, I think it's very smart to do that. But that's pretty much everything I have to say. I'm going to start watching the episode now, so yeah, let's just get right into the review. Okay, so now on to the episode itself, and a lot happened in this episode. I guess we did have a big death at the end of the episode, which I really wasn't expecting. Obviously, I'll talk about what I think about that, later on in the review. But I guess the best way to really start it off is just to kind of talk about everything with Negan first, just because that's kind of separated, from everything else that went on in the show, but it was still pretty big. So Gabriel has been doing like these prayer sessions with Negan to kind of I guess help Negan to humanize him a little bit, and Negan is starting to say that he kind of feels content with being locked up because he has everything that he needs right there. He gets to look out the window and listen to people talk about talk and forget that he's here, and they say some interesting things. And he tries to rally up Gabriel by talking about how Rosita was talking about somebody that wasn't even him. So obviously Gabriel knows that that's not going to work. But one thing I do got to mention too about Negan is he looks a lot different than he was like this, in episode 6 as well. He looks a lot different. Like, it seems like, he's clean shaven now, and it looks like that he's not as in bad of a place as he was from episode 5. So I actually kind of like that. Kind of shows that he's kind of become content with staying in the cell. So what happens is then when Gabriel leaves Eugene's prison, he finds out that Rosita's been hurt. So he can't really go deal with it because he has to stay and take care of Negan. And Negan is just getting under his skin by talking about how now he has to clean up his shit, which was pretty hilarious, actually. It was like a very Negan thing to do, if that makes sense. And this at this point, Gabriel just loses it because I think he's just so upset about Rosita, and he's upset that he has to be there for Negan, and he's just treating him like shit. When he can't be there for Rosita, somebody that he cares about. So Negan actually shows some human compassion. He actually feels sympathy about what Gabriel is going through. So what ends up happening is throughout the episode, Negan had been throwing a tennis ball at the wall and catching it with a baseball glove, and this becomes significant because he accidentally throws it out of his cell, and we hear like a gush of wind come through and like his cell jiggle, and he opens the door because I guess Gabriel probably forgot to lock it when before he left, and Negan escapes, which obviously that's a big deal because this is going to be the first time that Negan's been outside the world since the end of season 8, and it's probably the first time in really 7 years, if you think about it, because obviously the beginning of the season had a 1.5-year time jump, and then it had a 6-year time jump, so Negan really hasn't been outside the world in 7 years. So it's definitely going to be very interesting to see what happens with Negan going forward. I'm very much looking forward to that, and I just think it's going to be awesome. Because now they have like a new threat, but now they kind of have to worry about the fact that Negan escaped. So that's going to be very interesting. It's kind of like a nice little plot hole that they're going to put into the next season. And I kind of like that we didn't see anything else, because I think if it kind of keeps fans hooked to want to watch it. And it's not like they just ended it right after Negan left. So I liked it. One thing I didn't really like about this episode was they focused a lot of the storyline on Henry adjusting to the hilltop. Now, I would have liked this if it had taken place in a different episode of the show, but because it was the mid-season finale, I just kind of thought it took away from, other things being showcased. But that's just what I think. I think if you had done this maybe like in episode 7, it would have made more sense. But him and Carol arrive at the hilltop, and what made this storyline pretty relatable is it still kind of showed that even though they're in a zombie apocalyptic type of world, they still have to deal with typical teenage peer pressure type of things. And it is kind of nice to see that they still deal with those type of struggles, because I just think it's pretty cool. Like, even though like they're in a different environment, that type of stuff doesn't just go away. Because at first, Carol even talks about how he's proud. She's proud of him, and she leaves. And he's doing really well as a blacksmith at first. He completes all of his machines and like weapons and stuff. and he actually has a crush on Eden, but he finds out that Eden's actually dating Alden. And I think that kind of messed up Henry a little bit, because I think he instantly thought he was going to come in and be able to date Eden, but he had been there in so long that he didn't get to see, Eden. So Eden obviously moved on to somebody else, because Earl offers to hang out with him. At first he says yeah, but then a group of kids offer to hang out with Eden, and this is like the typical peer pressure type of kids that get you to do all these type of bad things, like sneak out of your house, drink alcohol and stuff, and just do stupid stuff. And that's kind of what these kids do. They sneak out of the hilltop. They drink moonshine, and they play horseshoes using a walker, and Henry executes it, and later on Tara and Earl throw Henry in jail, and they're pretty much going to kick him out of the community, but Henry doesn't want to be kicked out because he'll feel like that he let his mother, his father, and the kingdom down. So Earl says that, and Earl kind of relates to what Henry was talking about, because he talks about how he was so excited but didn't really want to get excited for to come to the hilltop. And Earl relates to him. He even talks about how he was thrown in jail in the beginning of this season. So he says he's going to talk to Jesus when he gets back, and that was pretty much that. That was kind of like, the biggest thing. That was kind of a minor thing. Like I said, nothing bad, but it really didn't need to be in this episode. They really could have, put that off to like a different episode. I really don't think they needed to do that in this episode. So then what happens is Michonne and Magnus Group and Sadiq all arrive at the hilltop, and this is kind of why I'm kind of pissed they did do this kind of 6-year time jump thing, because it does really make everything confusing, because we know something went down with the hilltop, Alexandria, and the kingdom, because the hilltop immediately doesn't trust Michonne or anybody else, and Michonne reveals who these people are and stuff, but Tara's kind of not really trusting Michonne. So I did read online that they are going to show us in the past 6 years why they haven't been getting along, but it's kind of still has like the same type of problems that I always kind of have had with Walking Dead. Why are they going to show us it after you've already done this 6-year time jump? It really doesn't make any sense to me. And it's kind of why I think 6 years was too much. They should have at least jumped to when they had those problems. I'm going to guess that it had something to do, obviously how episode 5 ended. Everybody kind of got pissed about that. So, yeah. But I just think, personally, it was just really kind of stupid to do a 6-year time jump. And Michonne kind of feels uneasy about being there, and Sadiq offers for her to make peace, but Michonne wants to do it, but she doesn't want to do it their way, because they have their way they want to do it. So Magnus Group is very uneasy about the hilltop, because she hears Michonne kind of talking crap about it. She even has like a nice rekindling moment with Carol, which I thought was nice, and Carol even talks about the fair that they're going to have at the kingdom, but Michonne isn't interested because she wants to keep her people safe, because it's a bit of a distance to get, from Alexandria to the kingdom, which I'm assuming that is just going to be one episode when they do, the fair at the kingdom. And considering how this episode ended, obviously, something's gonna go on about that. So then what ends up that was pretty much everything. And then what ends up happening is they sit with Rosita, and when Rosita wakes up, she tells Michonne that Eugene's in grave danger because she tells Rosita that Dale, Aaron, and Jesus all went out to look for Eugene. So this immediately causes Rosita to get up and like leave a hospital bed and stuff like that. So then we pretty much found out everything that went down, which was like the main storyline of this episode. Dale, Aaron, and Jesus see a herd of walkers. There's about 140 of them. I might have gotten the number wrong, but it was about that many. And they noticed that they're like in a weird type of herd. Like they have been in this position a couple of times, and it's all kind of like they're waiting for something. So Dale at first just thinks it's a regular herd, so they go to look for Eugene. They overhear the herd, so what Dale does is he gets a stopwatch and he throws it, and he has it like go off, and it distracts the herd so they can go find Eugene. And they get to the barn where Eugene is. Dog sniffs him out and finds him, and it was revealed that after the events that took place in episode 6, Rosita stashed him in there so that way she could go get help. But Eugene pretty much tells them about the walkers, how they were whispering to each other, and how the same herd had come around looking for him 2 times. And yeah, it was just very weird. So what ends up happening is we overhear the herd, and it's the same herd that Dale used to distract them. So they don't understand how that happened, but what they agree to get Eugene out of there, and Eugene wants to just be left behind because he claims he's holding them back, but they say that they're not going to do that. So they did do a scene too where Aaron was talking to Jesus about recruitment and how Jesus has avoided being the leader of the hilltop. So what ends up happening is at first Jesus is going to go try to lure the herd away while Dale and Aaron get Eugene back to the hilltop. But Dale offers for himself to go, so they do go to do that. Dale lights a stick of dynamite and throws it, and it explodes. And typically the walkers would just follow it, and it would allow them to be lured away. But that's not what happened this time. What happened is the walkers just, obviously were attracted to it at first, but then they turned. Because Eugene said something very significant, that the walkers are possibly evolving, because he talked about how and at first it wasn't possible for the dead to rise, so maybe the walkers evolved and actually started to develop some type of strategy to be able to attack people, which that actually was an interesting point, and I kind of thought that's the direction they were going, but that's not what happened. What happens is, the walkers end up catching up to Aaron, Jesus, and Eugene, and they try to get him through, but they get trapped because the gate can't open. So Aaron and Jesus start killing and Eugene a little bit start killing walkers, and Michonne comes up, and Magna and her group come up and save Eugene. They open the gate, and Magna says we're earning our keep, and at first I thought what was going to happen was we were going to find out they were a part of this and turn their backs and show their true colors, but that's not what happened. What happened is Eugene's killing all the walkers, and he goes to kill the last one, but it ducks and stabs Jesus right through the gut with his sword, and whispers, "You don't belong here," which was very creepy, by the way. These whispers we hear the walkers say now is just very creepy. So Daryl comes over and executes it. Jesus slowly dies, and what happens is Daryl, it's revealed that the walker that killed Jesus was actually somebody disguised, in walker based uniform. And we hear more whispers about people saying that they're all gonna die soon. So I actually like this because this ends with a new threat to the Walking Dead and I don't know what to expect from this. It was definitely an intriguing ending. It's definitely one of the best mid-season finale endings in a long time. Obviously season 8's was very bad because that was the death of Carl pretty much, and then you had season 7, which that wasn't bad. That started the war with the Saviors and everybody else, of them trying to form that war, but it really wasn't anything satisfying. Season 6, obviously we don't talk about that. Season 5 was that hospital storyline that was pretty bad, so I think it's the best one since mid-season finale, honestly, since season 4 when the governor invaded the prison and stuff like that. It's not as good as that one, I don't think, but I think it's very close. But I kind of like the way they ended it because it ended on a cliffhanger, because we're all going to be left wondering who this new threat is. Now, obviously, I heard if you read the comics, you know who the threat is, but I don't read the comics, so which I do plan on doing, obviously, if you watch my channel update video. We're going to start the comics I'm going to start the comics from the beginning at some point this year. But I like the way they ended it. I think it's very intriguing. We get to see a nice new threat, and yeah, I like the way they ended the episode. And I did read online that when they revealed that they were going to kill Jesus off, Tom Paine really wasn't mad about that because he was kind of starting to get frustrated because his character really wasn't featured all that much, which I actually agree with that because his character I thought was pretty intriguing and stuff, and it was barely ever featured. I don't think you really saw much of his character that much, so I actually agree with them killing him off, honestly. They really, which kind of sucks because I feel like they could have done a lot with his character, but they didn't. So, which kind of sucks because you have Walking Dead characters leaving the show left and right, so that's really not good for the show. But overall, I thought this was a great way to end the first half of season 9, and it really makes me intrigued to want to watch Sunday, episode 9, the mid-season premiere. I'm very excited to watch that. So if I had to grade this episode, I'm going to give it a B+. I thought it was a great episode. I thought it was a great, story arc. I like the stuff they did with Negan. I like the stuff they did. I didn't really hate the stuff they did with Henry. I just think it could have been saved for a different episode. I like the stuff, they did with Michonne coming into Hilltop since this is the first time she had been there. It would have been better if we had known the situation that led to that fight, but whatever. And I obviously liked the main storyline with introducing a new villain and stuff like that. So very interested to see what happens with this. And yeah, very interested. But that's pretty much it. Everybody on IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes largely agrees with me. Rotten Tomatoes gave this episode an 80%, and IMDb gave this episode an 8.9 out of 10. So yeah, it definitely is reviewed very highly. A lot of people said it was the best mid-season finale in a long time. So there's that. But yeah, overall B+. And yeah, I'm gonna watch Talking Dead now and get my review of that up. Okay, so now on to Talking Dead. It was hosted by Chris Hardwick, and we had the special guest Robert Kirkman, who wrote the comics, Ross Malkin, who plays Aaron, and Thomas Paine, or Tom Paine. I don't know if his full name's Thomas or not. So yeah, it was very good. They talked about some stuff with Tom Paine. He didn't mention any of his frustrations, but at the end when he was thanking him, he said it was both fun and frustrating. So I actually kind of liked that. But yeah, really, they just kind of talked about the end of the season and stuff like that. So they did to give a new name for these new villains. It's the Whisperers. They said they're in the comics, but like I said, I haven't read the comics, so I didn't know that. But that obviously makes sense to call them the Whisperers anyways, because when you hear them and stuff, they're called the Whisperers and stuff. So yeah. But yeah, I want to talk about that too, because that's going to be a very interesting storyline for the show, because now it's a new enemy that they've never experienced before, and they're a dark and creepy enemy. And it's interesting too because you literally don't know like where the Whisperers are gonna be since they're all the walkers. So what just happened to Jesus could happen to somebody else. And I am actually very intrigued to see this new villain in this group. And we just saw the mid-season premiere, like a sneak peek of it, and Negan just looks awesome in that scene, and I'm very much looking forward to it. I'm very much looking forward to the mid-season premiere. So, yeah. While I am here, though, I will talk a little bit of what I thought about the first half of the season. I thought the first half of the season was absolutely fantastic. It was definitely a rebuild from what the past 3 seasons have been, because they haven't been the best of seasons. Season 5, I thought was good, though, but I think that's a little bit of an overrated season. I thought Season 9 was a really nice rebuild of The Walking Dead. So I think that's awesome. The first 5 episodes I thought were really good of writing off Rick's character and, showing the adaptation of people and kind of them transitioning into like the new world that Rick had wanted. And I really like that. You got to kind of see some nice stories be told with that, and the way Rick was written off was really nice. And actually, Chris Hardwick actually had to say on the show where Maggie was, because a lot of people didn't know that, Laura Cohan is on, Whiskey Cavaliers or whatever the name of that show is. But, she is going to come back, but he pretty much had to say that that was the last episode. But, you had a lot of big characters leave the show this season, like Jesus, like Rick, like Maggie. And obviously, I like seeing the new side of Negan this season, with him being like in that bad state, living in the cell, and him finally escaping this season. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens with him now that he's kind of on the loose. Now, I'm thinking he's going to be a good guy now too. So that's going to be interesting. The Whisperers story arc was interesting. Seeing Daryl and Michonne kind of react towards Rick's death. But like I said, the only things I really didn't like about this season was like Henry's character. I really didn't care much about that. I get kind of pissed seeing what Judith was in this show, because everything that Judith was should have been Cole. I'm still gonna keep saying that every time I see Sadiq, just because he's the reason that storyline wise why Carl died on the show. And I also like seeing the new group with Magno and stuff like that too. So that's gonna be interesting. Because now obviously Michonne and stuff is gonna be pushing for their trust. And I obviously didn't like how they did this 6-year time jump, and we see like this conflict that had gone down with the Kingdom, Alexandria, and the Hilltop, and they're not gonna show anything of it, Because if they're just going to show it anyways, I wish that could have been something we should have seen. I think 6 years was too long to do a time jump. That's just me, though. I also didn't like that we didn't really get enough of Ken Ezekiel this season. He really wasn't in really a lot of the season. He was only in really like the first 2 episodes and episode 6, and then that was pretty much it. I really feel like they could have utilized him a lot more. He's a pretty good character, and I don't know why. It seems like they kind of slacked off on using him. They stopped using him really ever since season 8, since the Kingdom fell the first time. So I really think they could have utilized Ken Ezekiel a lot better this season. But other than that, I think season 9 has been a very big successful so far. I kind of like how they transitioned back to like the west, to the old country western type of thing. I like that we got Michael Cultrix, which is Abraham from season from The Walking Dead. I like that he directed an episode, and yeah, I think The Walking Dead's been really been awesome this season. If I had to give it a grade, I'm gonna give it I'm gonna give it an A- so far. It has been an awesome season. There were just some minor things that are kind of nitpick things that are pissing me off. But yeah, I am looking forward to seeing what's going to happen with the Whisperers and stuff. And there was some news that came out with Michonne, this week and stuff like that. But that's not really going to be playing into effect until season 10. I won't really talk about it all that much until we get to that point. I'm just going to finish the rest of season 9 and then I'll put it up. So that's pretty much the end of this video. Thank you guys for watching. Please make sure you guys like, comment, and share this video so people will watch it. Make sure you guys subscribe to this channel for more content and click on the bell so that way every time I upload a video, you guys will get the notifications for it. And make sure you guys do the same thing for my CM Brothers YouTube channel because I plan on uploading some videos on there fairly soon. And that's pretty much it, guys. Talk to you later.